Harassed at work. First time poster. Been reading through these creepy stories for a while now, and has brought back a similar experience which happened to me not too long ago. I used to think there was no reason not to feel safe at work, but I was wrong. I was about 18 at the time and was working an evening shift at a cafe, which happens to be part of a supermarket. It was a pretty boring shift, little amount of customers in the store, etc., and there was only 2 other staff in the cafe. So anyways, I was standing at the till, trying to look busy, and a man casually strolls up to me. He tells me he wants a Coke, and I explain the Coke machine is self-service. He just stares at me, so I ask what size drink he wants, and just pour it for him anyways. He then orders some food, the whole time just staring at me, but I don't think anything of it. He then takes the closest seat next to the cash register, and still I don't really think anything of it. After a few minutes of bringing his order out, he walks back up to the till and starts talking to me. He asked me if I like to go clubbing and what clubs I go to. I just mention a few of the generic popular ones in my town. He mentions a bar which has a reputation for being a bit rough, and asked me if I wanted to go there with him at the weekend. I just say no thank you, to be polite. He then started asking loads of questions. What is your name? Where do you live? What time do you finish work? I lied to every question and started to get freaked out. He then said, "Okay, I'll wait for you outside." I really didn't know what to say at this point. I sort of edged away to the kitchen area in the cafe and quickly told the supervisor about the man and what he had said. She quickly called a security guy to come over, and we went to the front of the cafe to find the man. He was nowhere to be seen, and had even left the food and drink he had ordered behind untouched. I was convinced he was actually going to be waiting for me outside when I finished, so I was really freaked out. And I was so thankful that my supervisor offered to give me a lift home. Otherwise, it would have been a 30-minute walk from the town center for me. Needless to say, the man wasn't waiting for me outside, and thankfully, I never saw him again. Don't shop at Whole Foods at night. Strange things happen to me on a regular basis. Tonight was no exception. I decided to take a late evening run to Whole Foods to pick up some fresh fruit, and as I'm pursuing the produce, a woman walks by me. She has wild gray hair covered by a black sun hat. She has clipped one of the produce bags to her shirt like a bib. Her face looks much younger than her hair would suggest, and I make the brief mental note of all of this and go about my fruit shopping business. I thought I heard her say a few words under her breath, but living in a city, I am used to eccentric characters, and we generally share our space harmoniously. As I'm going through a great debate on the best grapefruit to pick up, I raise my eyes slightly because I had that feeling. This woman gave me the most bone-chilling glare I ever received in some time. I think, well, that was weird. But again, no reason to deter me from my shopping goals. She then rushes around the corner and pushes her cart at me. I actually have to dodge the cart as it comes at me in the aisle. She says, "Excuse me," and scowls. I say, "No problem," as I pass by her. I deliberately walk off slow because I'm not playing along with this shenanigan and getting excited. After buying a few more items in the store, slightly rattled, I make my way to the checkout. I stand in the one open line and realize she's checking out as well. I try to make myself scarce behind the guy in front of me, but she spots me and gives me one last scowl. When she was done, I noticed she spent an insane amount of time idling at the exit. Thankfully, the guy in front of me had a tremendous amount of purchases, and eventually she left. As I walked out to get in my car, I still had the creepy feeling, tingling on the back of my neck. I got in my car and laughed at myself because I honestly thought I was overreacting to the situation. I checked my rearview mirror, and I went cold and white. Heart. Stop. She was sitting in a gray van in about 3 rows behind me. I got out of there. The van turned on its lights, started to make its way out the lot, and just stopped. What the fuck just happened? Coconut Boy. When working the last shift at a grocery store, you tend to encounter a particular group of people that are lacking in social graces and common sense. After all, the odd dugs need to crawl out of the woodwork to buy food too. This is one of the many encounters I had at Wild Oats, later to become Whole Foods, that is located in the slightly seedier part of central Tuscan. The year was 2006. I was a 18 to 19-year-old female working the juice bar near the front of the store. Quite a few creepy things happened during my employment there, and all of them happened when I was working the juice bar shift. It was my first job, and was located just a 7-minute walk from my old apartment, which was pretty sweet. You get some pretty interesting characters coming through, from the suburban yuppie yoga moms to homeless hippies with a penchant for pilfering. It's a pretty diverse crowd, and being one of the few health food stores in Tuscan at the time, we tended to attract a lot of regulars. This isn't necessarily a good thing. At this time, we had the golden rule policy with our customers. If it was a minute to close, you had to do whatever they wanted, even if it took them 15 minutes to do it. This naturally attracted a lot of assholes who took advantage of it, but hey, you piss off one customer, and they'll tell 9 of their friends to stop shopping at the store. Well, you think if they're anything like the original customer, then good. You may have guessed that my opinions did not exactly jive with management's. This particular customer was the exception, however. I don't know his real name. He may have introduced himself at one point, but none of us ever cared to commit it to memory. He had very pale skin, almost tinged blue, and giant red slabs for lips that he slurped the strangest concoctions with. His hair was dark and curly, and his eyes fished-dead and hooded. He came and sat at the juice bar right around closing time each night. I think he may have planned it. I always like to take apart the juicers and let it soak before close because beet, carrot, and spinach are hella hard to get off the blades. When I'd reassemble the machine, he'd be there, with 4 pounds of produce for me to juice. He had done enough weird things during the day to piss even my store director, Al, off. We always referred to him as Coconut Boy behind the counter, because of the whole coconuts he'd bring over to the produce section for us to open. We were always pretty busy, and this jackass would slam his coconuts on the countertop and demanded to be taken care of first. Al happened to be within earshot one time, and decided it would be better for everyone if I gave him my knife, and he opened the coconuts himself. At this point, both of us behind the counter looked incredulously at Al, then at Coconut Boy. Sure, he couldn't be serious. Oh, but he was, so we gave it to him. Not even a second in possession of the knife did Coconut Boy start hacking away with it, with unholy fire. He was raising the knife above his head and slamming it with all force with his tiny, dilapidated muscles could handle, which surprisingly was quite a bit. One of the yoga yuppies nearly had her eye out as he was doing this at the crowded bar. Realizing his error, Al then tried to wrestle the knife away from Coconut Boy before a potential lawsuit could unfurl, and sternly told us to never give Coconut Boy a knife again. Typical. So Coconut Boy was already on management's shit list when he came in the next day, a minute after closing time. I had already cleaned my area up when I saw him sitting with his produce at the bar. My supervisor must have seen my face fall and took it upon herself to tell CB that we were closed for the evening and will not under any circumstances juice his veggies. At this point, he goes creepy, smacking his lips. He comes behind the counter and tries to pick up the blender, starts saying what a nice blender it is, and if he could take it home. Kate, my supervisor, loses it and tells him to get the fuck out. She had to push him out of the juice bar and explain why customers are not allowed back there. During this, one of the ineffectual front-end managers comes by and orders us to make his drink. Not wanting to clean the machine again, I lie and say that a piece and back is still soaking. Kate backs me up. I tell them the blender is still available, however, if the customer would like a fruit smoothie. I am giving my best fuck you smile at this time. Well, that didn't stop him. He had me blend carrots with the top still on, beets, jicama, red peppers, an unpeeled bowl of garlic, cabbage, kale, and some other funky veggies that I couldn't identify. I told him that I needed to add water for it to blend properly, and he asked me if it was organic. Not surely how to answer that, I said yes. End result? A fibrous mass of compost that looked and smelled repulsive. Feeling a bit petulant at this time, I stuck a straw in the largest of the containers, there were 4, holding his stew. He tried to slurp it up with the straw but failed. There were too many chunks in it. Digging his pasty hands with dirty nails into the concoction, he then proceeded to shovel globs of the muck past his slimy red lips, making for several very disgusting sounds and a huge mess. Smears of green-purple goo slid down his chin while making eye contact with both Kate and myself. Horrified with the mess he was making, the front-end manager finally told him to leave. He argued with her about it because he hadn't finished, but she had her way, and he was out the side set of doors in a matter of minutes. At this time, it was 20 past close, and we were hustling to get everything cleaned up so we can go home. Kate finished before me. She had jumped in her beat-up red Jeep with zebra seat covers and booked it back to her place. Being the last one out, nearly an hour past close, the front-end manager escorted me to the front door so she could lock up. My apartment was within easy walking distance, so I nodded goodnight to her and set off. My path home took me past Zia's, across the parking lot to Ike's, and down this car dealership, where I'd make a right onto Ritchie. Ritchie would then intersect with 2nd Street, and my place was right on the corner. It's pretty well lit until you get off Speedway, so I always felt reasonably safe taking it late at night. At that hour, there are no other pedestrians on the street because all the shops are closed, and all the bars are further down the road. Even so, I'm always on full alert. Being a slender, young white girl with a pretty face feels akin to being a plump gazelle in a room full of hungry lions when you've lived in this neighborhood. You can say what you want, or that I'm being paranoid white woman crying rape whenever I bump elbows with a stranger, but hey, guess who's still alive? That being said, I heard a footstep echo behind me, passing the door of Zia's. Glancing behind, I saw a figure coming out of the shadows walking towards me. It was too dark for me to make out a face, but I felt hairs on my arms start to prickle. It had an odd gait, and started loping after me once it saw my head turn. By then, the figure had come under one of the walkway lights, and I saw my old buddy, Coconut Boy, with the freakiest deadpan expression on his face charging towards me, with a coconut in each hand. At that point, my legs were pumping furiously to get me the fuck out of there. I had never been much for running, but adrenaline does some pretty amazing things when fight or flight is activated. I guess on some base level, I thought it would be a good idea to take an alternate route home, because I zigzagged through the parking lot and took a back path off the main street, jumping over concrete pylons into an empty lot behind the shopping complex. I whipped my head to look behind and could still see him galloping through the parking lot after me. Thoroughly freaked out by now, I jolted down a little side alley between some duplexes and encountered a chain link fence. Normally I turn around and find another way, but I was up and over that fence in a matter of seconds and sliding on gravel as felt my shoes evitate halfway down the street. I don't remember how I got home from that point. I think my brain was on autopilot, but my legs gave out as soon as I locked my front door and crawled to pass out in my closet. The next morning, I firmly told the store director that I would be filing a restraining order. Surprisingly enough, I got support from my coworkers to file a formal complaint and permanently ban him from the store. We filed an incident report. Al had a talk with him the next time he came in, and I haven't heard from him since. The end.